Let's talk about how China destroyed 2020. So how was your 2020, everybody? Mine was actually bittersweet. A lot of positive things happened for me this year. I got to see my daughter grow up. I saw a lot of positive changes around me. You know, we've been getting stuck in with the worthless whips, which has been fun and a great distraction from all the sort of misery and trouble around us. But one thing that's been puzzling me a lot is the fact that people have kind of forgotten why we are where we are in 2020. The biggest thing that has affected the world and affected you, definitely has affected you whether you like it or not, is the pandemic that came out of Wuhan in China. This morning I woke up, and I often get tweeted at by people on Twitter. You know, very toxic place, Twitter. I don't like to engage, but occasionally I do, because, you know, if you're feeling those negative vibes, you have to get them out somewhere, right? Twitter seems to be the perfect place. And someone was like, I don't understand why, I'll just throw up the tweet here, I don't understand why there's anti-China sentiment, you know. People that hate Trump still, you know, agree with his China stuff. Well, dumbass, it's because China ruined 2020. It's no joke. Again, it's not about Chinese people, everybody. It's not about a people thing. It's about a system of government and the way that it's run and how it affected the world. We cannot lose sight of the fact that China really did allow this pandemic to escape. And the reason is because of the whole system of face in China. Losing face is more important, or is seen as a higher priority, preventing the loss of face, than actually saving lives. And this has been the case in China for a very long time. It's not just very recent, it's part of the culture. It's a part of a lot of Asian cultures, actually. But it is something that puts us all at risk, and high-trusting societies around the world are blind to this and take China at face value and just believe whatever comes out of the government's mouth, which is ridiculous. If you're the kind of person who questions your politicians in your country, questions your president, I know a lot of people question President Trump, they question, Biden, they question anyone that is in any kind of political position, they question them. In South Africa, everybody questions the dictators that run it there. And by the way, it's bad news for South Africans again. They've gone into level 3 lockdown, which means you're not allowed to buy booze, which is ridiculous. So what are people supposed to do when they're locked in their houses if they can't drink themselves into a stupor? I just don't understand it, especially South Africans. But, you know, everybody criticizes their governments, but for some reason, the same people that seem to lash out at their home governments or other governments around the world, they criticize the UK, the EU, all this kind of thing, don't seem to criticize China. It seems as if it's an off-bounds topic. And at the end of the day, we have to just cut straight to it again. It is China that unleashed this pandemic on the world. So let's break it down very quickly and very basic for those of you who don't understand. Something started to happen in Wuhan. Doctors, especially Dr. Li Wenliang, which, by the way, I made a video about him being arrested and stuff before he had died. Because, you know, I used to train doctors. I've got a lot of doctor friends in China. My wife is a doctor, so, you know, I had a bit of insight into what was going on. So, you know, all the doctors were discussing this before it made public news. And I was, you know, lucky to put that out on my channel. Unfortunately, he died, which was a terrible loss. But something started to happen in Wuhan. Dr. Li Wenliang started to discuss it amongst his colleagues. Everybody calls him a whistleblower. Some people say he was just talking with his friends, but either way, you know, he was trying to raise some awareness about it. What happens? The police come and shut him down, get him to go drink tea with them and sign one of these forced confessions, which is something that's very common in China. If you do something that the government doesn't like, they will nab you and get you to, like, basically sign, oh, I won't do that again, put your fingerprint, sign your name, and that's how they kind of control you. And if you break that oath, if you go and spread rumors or, you know, any of those kind of things, they can then really put you away. Or if you just spread rumors in the first place and it gets too big, they will just nab you and not give you that option to sign that thing. I've had to drink tea with the police in China before. I know how it all works. It's a face game. It's all about saving face, and that's what the government wants to do. They don't want panic, they don't want harmony to be broken, and they'll go to extreme lengths to prevent that, like falsifying data, not allowing people to know that your grandmother died of COVID-19, rather writing on the death certificate that they died of pneumonia, or a bad case of the flu or something, where they know it was actually COVID, because that way it keeps the COVID infections down. This is something that's already been proven. So anyway, whistleblowers get shut down, but the government knows something's up. So what do? They lock down Wuhan. They do not allow any domestic flights out of the infected area to go anywhere else. You're not allowed to fly to Beijing or Shanghai or Shenzhen or anywhere. You're just not allowed to go anywhere if you're from Wuhan. And they're pretty severe in their lockdown tactics over there. People sick? Well, they just weld you in your house. They bar you in there. They put these kind of draconian measures to prevent people from moving around. You know, and that honestly is the best way to contain a virus from moving, is preventing people from moving. But at the same time, it, of course, tramples all over people's human rights. And it's not something that, for instance, you could do in a place like America. Imagine telling people they're not allowed to leave their houses and sending the army to weld bars on your doors. I don't think that would go down very well in America. I think people would rather, you know, die on their own terms than allow the government to control them to such a harsh degree. Anyway, so they lock it down. But at the same time, because they don't want to appear as if there's an issue in China, they first of all pressure the WHO, the World Health Organization, into sending out the incorrect messages to the world that, oh, it doesn't transmit human to human, when China already knew that it did. They also go and pressure the World Health Organization to praise China and China's efforts. They also allow the same people that are not allowed to travel domestically within China are allowed to fly overseas. And everybody knows that Chinese immigrants and Chinese travelers and tourists and businessmen and stuff are everywhere in the world. You can't even name a single country where there isn't a large Chinese population. Just name one. You can't. There are big diasporas everywhere around the world. So, of course, especially during that time, Chinese New Year and all that, you've got people traveling to meet family back and forth to all the countries around the world. And that is how it spread so quickly. It was infected people from China flying to different countries. Okay? And of course, the spread internationally more quickly than it did locally in China, because China had Wuhan locked down. So, we all know the spread, the initial disease, came from China, and the reason it spread was because China was trying to play it cool, hope it blew over, hope it wouldn't be a big deal, and they were just basically looking after themselves and not caring about the rest of the world, as China always does. You know, the Chinese government, I should say. And here we are now with your dead relatives and the fact that you cannot go out to a restaurant or to a national park or whatever it is, wherever you live, because every state and every country is different. You cannot go out to buy beer in South Africa, all because China let this spread, or the CCP. I have to keep reiterating this because people seem to think I'm anti-Chinese people, but I'm not. I'm anti the CCP and what they've done to the world. So, guys, we saw some nonsense happening, and right now we still see nonsense happening around us, all because of the incompetence, the deviousness and underhandedness of the CCP, the self-serving bullshit that they do. But let's look at some of the positives. Out of all this nonsense, I think a lot of people have woken up. I surely hope you have woken up to see that this is how the Chinese government operates on all fields, in all aspects. Every single thing that they do is all about faking it till you make it. It's all about doing anything underhanded or doing whatever they can when things go wrong in order to serve themselves. There's no transparency, and it's all fake. And I've seen this in every level of government because, having lived in China for 14 years, I worked with the government a lot. A lot of the places, even where I taught English, I would teach English for some government organizations, deal with some big up, higher up bosses, meet mayors, go around the country doing all sorts of things. And on every level, it's all about face and guanxi. And guanxi is what they call connections, friendships, that kind of thing. It's more about connections. And it's all about going out and getting drunk and talking about this and who knows who and doing favors for favors and that kind of thing. And so you'll see something like a construction project is built on a bunch of underhanded nonsense. This is just an example. But the same with everything else that the government does. So the GDP figures coming out of China, the infection rates coming out of China. It's all nonsense, guys. a lot of people out there think China has this beat. You know, you see the parties, the pool parties in Wuhan, and you see all this kind of, people saying, look, no one has to wear a mask in China. But at the same time, you also see these sort of conflicting reports of certain pockets of infections and certain areas being locked down, but on the hush-hush. Of course, knowing a lot of people in China, I get this information a lot, that there is still a lot of infections going on, but you know, the image of them having overcome the virus is more important. So those little breakouts are kept very, very quiet, because remember, China's beat this, right? This is not a blame game, by the way. We can shout all day, bad China, bad Chinese government. How dare you do this? How dare you unleash this pandemic on the world? But it's more a chance for us all to look at ourselves and improve ourselves and improve our understanding of how things work. And if by improving ourselves, I mean don't trust the Chinese government and anything they say, that's a good improvement. I think a lot of people have now been thrust in a situation that's woken them up and taught them what's important in life, how important family is, how important just the basic simple things in life are. Because you take that kind of thing for granted. When's the last time you could go and sit down in a restaurant and have a nice meal with your family? Well, for me, it's been like a year. And that's simply because, pandemic. When this, and if this all finally dies down, if the vaccine comes out and it's actually successful, and things kind of return to normal again, I think we have to be a lot more cautious when dealing with the Chinese government on all aspects, because we've seen how self-serving it is, and to the detriment of not only the Chinese people, because there are a lot of tragic stories that came out of this in China, but of course the people around the world. And don't for 1 minute even think about falling for all this nonsense where China's pointing fingers at other countries and saying, oh, it came from Italy, oh, it came from the United States military, oh, no, it came from frozen beef from Australia. It's all a bunch of nonsense. And also, please recognize the sheer amount of hypocrisy that's going on here, where China has now banned indefinitely flights coming out of the UK. They've banned foreigners from being able to go in for ages now. But at the same time, if any country were to ban flights coming from China, you hear this huge cry of racist, racism, all this kind of stuff. It's nonsense. Guys, wake up, okay? You cannot allow the Chinese government and the Chinese media to do this hypocritical double-standard nonsense and pull out the race card every time something doesn't go their way. We have to stand up to tyranny. We have to follow a moral compass in life. We have to see right from wrong. And we have to help each other out now. 2021 has to be better. And the only way it's going to be better is for us to stop bemoaning our situation and casting blame on places like China, which, of course, is to blame for this pandemic leaking into the world. Definitely. I mean, other countries handled it poorly. That's a given. But at the same time, we have to look at the source, right? Why? Because they knew. It's like if you have a kid that goes to school who has like a contagious disease, goes into the classroom, but the parents knew that the kid had that contagious disease, and the kid goes in and infects everyone and all the kids end up dying. Who do you blame? You blame the parents who knew that that kid was infected. It's the same thing. China knew and let those infected children go all over the world and infect you and your family and your government and your everything else. Anyway, 2021, let's stand together. Let's work together. Let's hope for a successful vaccine and hope for a little bit of normalcy to come back. But at the end of the day, helping each other out, being kind to one another, and working together is the best thing that we can do. Everybody's angry. There's a lot of things to lament about 2020. It's been a rough year for everybody, specifically because of the pandemic. Never mind politics and all the other nonsense that's been going on. But our way forward is kindness. So guys, I'm wishing you all a fantastic 2021. All of my love and support to anyone who needs it. You guys support me so much by watching my videos, and I hope you find my videos valuable.